Captain Lee Jun had been working the night shift at Luna Station for 3 years, but nothing had prepared him for what he saw that Tuesday morning. The communication center hummed quietly around him as he monitored the endless stream of signals from deep space. Most were routine cargo ships checking in, mining operations sending daily reports. The usual chatter that kept human civilization connected across the stars. Kim Hanna, his communications operator, was scanning through the automated feeds when her screen lit up with something unusual. She had been trained to spot patterns in the chaos of space transmissions, and this one made her stomach turn cold. "Captain, you need to see this," she said, her voice tight with concern. "I'm picking up structured broadcasts from Sector 7G. It's not random noise. Someone's broadcasting on multiple channels simultaneously." Lee Jun pushed back from his desk and walked over to her station. The holographic interface showed wave patterns that definitely looked artificial. Someone was using serious broadcasting equipment out there, far beyond the edge of known human space. "Can you decode it?" he asked. Hannah's fingers moved quickly across the controls, running the signal. Through their translation software, the first images that appeared made both of them step back in shock. The screen showed what looked like a massive arena filled with cheering crowds. But the crowds weren't human. They were aliens of dozens of different species, all watching. Something in the center of the arena with obvious excitement. What they were watching was a human being hunted by some kind of a 6-legged creature with razor-sharp claws. The human was obviously terrified, running and dodging while the alien crowd cheered every close call. Floating text appeared over the scene in various alien languages. Their translation software worked frantically to make sense of it all. When the words finally appeared in English, Lee Jun felt his blood turn to ice. Death World Champions, episode 847, scrolled across the screen. Below that, betting odds flickered and changed as the crowd placed wagers on how long the human would survive. The human in the arena was wearing the torn remains of a colonial uniform. Lee Jun recognized it immediately. It was the same design worn by the crew of the New Horizon colony ship that had gone missing 18 months ago. They had searched for weeks, assuming pirates had attacked or the ship had suffered catastrophic failure. Now he was watching one of those colonists being torn apart by an alien predator while billions of creatures across the galaxy cheered. Commander Park Min-ho burst through the door, his face grim. He had been monitoring the preliminary reports from the automated systems, and the numbers were staggering. "Sir, this is worse than we thought," Min-ho said, breathing hard from his run down the corridor. "The computer has been analyzing the background details in these broadcasts for the past hour. We've identified uniforms and personal items from at least 12 different colony ships that went missing over the past 5 years." Lee Jun stared at the screen where another human had been released into the arena. This one was a woman, maybe in her 30s, wearing what looked like the blue jumpsuit of a mining operation. She was crying as the alien creature stalked her, while the crowd's excitement grew louder. The alien hosts were commenting on the action like it was a sporting event, their voices rising and falling with the drama. The translation software was struggling to keep up, but the meaning was clear enough. They were discussing the human's technique, her speed, her obvious terror. They were rating her performance like she was an athlete instead of a person fighting for her life. "They're not just killing our people," Lee Jun said quietly, his voice filled with a cold rage that made both Hannah and Min-ho step back. "They're making entertainment out of it. They're broadcasting human death across the galaxy for profit." The screen showed the woman stumbling and falling. The creature pounced, and the crowd erupted in cheers as the human screams filled the arena. Betting payouts flashed across the screen as aliens celebrated their winnings. Lee Jun had seen combat during the border wars, had watched good soldiers die in terrible ways. But this was different. This was systematic, calculated cruelty, designed to maximize suffering for the enjoyment of billions of alien viewers. "Get me a direct line to Earth Command," he ordered. "Make copies of everything. Every second of these broadcasts. The galaxy is about to learn what happens when you make humans into your entertainment." The transmission continued showing more horrors, humans forced to fight impossible odds while alien commentators laughed at their desperation. But now Earth knew the truth about their missing colonists, and Earth was about to respond. Dr. Choi Yuna hadn't slept in 3 days. Her eyes burned from staring at computer screens, and her hands shook slightly as she reached for another cup of coffee. The xenobiology lab at Earth Command had become her prison, filled with the horrific evidence of what humanity was facing. Around her, a team of 12 specialists worked in shifts, analyzing every frame of the alien broadcasts. The lab's walls were covered with screenshots, diagrams, and maps showing the scope of what they had discovered. What had started as a routine signal analysis had become the most important investigation in human history. "Doctor, we found another pattern," called out her assistant. Dr. Kim Sun-ho. He was hunched over a workstation, comparing footage from different episodes. "Look at this. The arena designs change, but the basic structure stays the same." There. Using multiple locations, Yuna walked over to his screen, her legs unsteady from exhaustion. The images showed different arenas, some in desert environments, others in frozen wastelands, and some that looked like massive space stations. But Dr. Kim was right. The viewing areas, the betting systems, the way the crowds were arranged, it was all part of the same operation. It's not just random captures, she realized, her voice hoarse. This is organized. It's planned. They've been hunting our colony specifically. The door to the lab burst open, and Director Nam Ki-won strode in with 2 security officers. His face was grim as he surveyed the chaos of their investigation. Papers were scattered everywhere, empty food containers littered the desks, and the smell of too much coffee and too little sleep hung in the air. "What do we know?" demanded. Without preamble, Yuna pulled up the main presentation on the central screen. The Galactic Entertainment Consortium has been running this operation for at least 5 years, maybe longer. They call it Death World Champions, and it's broadcast to hundreds of worlds simultaneously. She clicked through screenshots showing the betting interfaces, the audience reactions, the promotional materials. They've turned human survival into the galaxy's most popular entertainment program. Our people aren't just dying, they're dying. For profit. Director Nam's jaw tightened as he watched footage of humans being chased through maze-like structures while alien crowds cheered. "How many colonies?" "What?" "At least 37 confirmed so far," Dr. Kim answered. "We're still identifying. Victims from the background footage? Some of these people have been missing for years." The door opened again, and Intelligence Officer Yang Sora entered carrying a thick folder of documents. She had been working with the tracking division, trying to locate the source of the broadcasts. Her usually perfect uniform was wrinkled, and dark circles under her eyes showed she hadn't been sleeping either. "Director, we've traced the signal sources," she announced, spreading star charts across the nearest table. "The main broadcast hub is located in the Centauri Nebula, about 47 light-years from Earth. But it's not just one facility." She pointed to different locations on the chart. They have production centers scattered across 17 different star systems. Each one is protected by local alien governments who are part of the consortium. They're not just allowing this, they're actively helping. The room fell silent as the full scope of the conspiracy became clear. This wasn't just one rogue organization. It was a coalition of alien species working together to hunt and kill humans for entertainment. "The audience numbers are staggering," young Sora continued. "We're talking about billions of viewers across dozens of species. They have subscription services, premium content, even merchandising. Our people's deaths are generating massive profits." Director Nam stared at the star charts, his hands clenched into fists. 17 species, all working together to murder our colonists. "Sir, there's more," Yuna said quietly. "The broadcasts showed that they're not just killing people quickly, they're designing elaborate scenarios to maximize suffering. They want the humans to be terrified, to struggle, to hope they might survive. The longer the episode runs, the higher the ratings." She pulled up footage of a human family, parents, and 2 children. Being separated and forced to watch each other face different challenges, the alien commentators were explaining how family bonds made humans fight harder, creating better entertainment. "They're studying us," she continued, "learning our psychology, our weaknesses, our fears. Every episode makes them better at torturing." The next group of victims. Director Nam turned away from the screens, his voice cold with controlled rage. "How long before they run out of isolated colonies and start targeting Earth itself?" Young Sora checked her reports. Based on their expansion pattern, maybe 2 years, 3 at most. They're getting bolder, taking bigger risks for higher ratings. The implications hung heavy in the air. Humanity had discovered that their missing colonists weren't victims of accidents or pirates. They were being systematically hunted by an entertainment industry that spanned multiple star systems. "Get me Admiral Shin Jun-ho," Director Nam ordered. "Right now, and seal this facility. No one talks about this until we decide how to respond." As the security officers moved to secure the lab, Yuna looked back at the screens, still showing human suffering. The galaxy was about to learn that hunting humans for sport was the worst mistake they could have made. The security leak happened at 3:47 a.m., Earth Standard Time. Someone in the xenobiology lab had copied the footage to a personal device. Within minutes, it was spreading across every social media platform, news network, and communication channel on Earth. By sunrise, every human being with access to the internet had seen their people being hunted for alien entertainment in New Tokyo. Office workers stopped in the middle of busy streets, staring at their phones in horror. The footage showed a young man in a colonial engineer's uniform being chased through a maze while alien crowds cheered his terror. In the background, betting odds flashed as millions of creatures across the galaxy wagered on how long he would survive. In London, the morning commute ground to a halt as people watched the broadcasts on the giant screens in Piccadilly Circus. A woman in a mining suit was being stalked by a creature with 6 legs and razor-sharp claws. The alien commentators were laughing as she begged for mercy in broken English, her voice distorted by fear. In Snow Paulo, protesters began gathering in the streets before the government could even issue a statement. Signs appeared reading, "Our people are not entertainment, and make them pay." The crowd grew from dozens to hundreds to thousands as more footage spread online. Admiral Shin Jun-ho was in the middle of a routine briefing when his aide burst into the room, tablet in hand. "Sir, the footage is everywhere. Every network, every platform, the whole world knows." Within an hour, Shin Jun-ho stood before the United Earth's military command in the most tense meeting of his career. The room was packed with generals, admirals, and intelligence directors from every branch of Earth's military. Air was thick with barely controlled fury. "Gentlemen, ladies, you've all seen the footage," Shin Jun-ho began, his voice steady despite the rage burning in his chest. "This is not a military exercise. This is not a border dispute. This is genocide disguised as entertainment." He activated the main screen, showing a map of human space with red markers indicating missing colonies. Every available resource gets redirected to this operation. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon. I don't care if it's a training vessel or a supply transport, everything gets mobilized. General Ko Hun, commander of Earth's ground forces, slammed his fist on the conference table with enough force to crack the wood. "They made entertainment out of human death. Broadcast our people's suffering to billions of alien viewers. For profit, they're about to learn what human rage looks like." The room erupted in agreement. These were military officers who had spent their careers managing conflicts, maintaining peace, following protocols. But watching their own species being hunted for sport had stripped away years of professional restraint. "Sir, what about the colonies that might still be out there?" asked Commander Park Ji-won from the Rescue Operations Division. Some of these people might still be alive, waiting for their turn in the arena." "We save who we can," Shin Jun-ho replied. "But our primary mission is to make sure this never happens again, ever." Meanwhile, President Yoon Sira was preparing for the most difficult speech of her political career. Her advisors had suggested waiting, forming committees, seeking diplomatic solutions. But the footage spreading across Earth made it clear that humanity wouldn't wait for politics at exactly noon. Every television, radio, and internet stream on Earth carried the same signal. President Yoon Sira stood behind the podium in the Oval Office, her face reflecting the cold fury that had gripped the entire planet. "My fellow humans," she began, her voice carrying the weight of humanity's collective rage. "Today we learned that our missing loved ones didn't die in accidents. They weren't killed by pirates or lost to space disasters. They were captured, tortured, and murdered for alien amusement." She paused, letting the words sink in. Years, while we mourned our missing colonies, aliens across the galaxy were betting on how long our people would survive. They turned human death into entertainment. They made profits from our suffering. The president's voice grew harder. This will not stand. Today, I am authorizing the largest military mobilization in human history. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon will be turned toward one goal, making sure that humanity is never again treated as entertainment. Within hours of the speech, something unprecedented happened. Military recruiters were overwhelmed by volunteers. Corporate executives offered their entire fleets for military use. Even criminal organizations reached out, offering ships and personnel. For the war effort, the message was clear and unanimous. Humanity would respond as one. The divisions that had kept humans fighting each other for centuries evaporated in the face of a common enemy that had dared to make sport of human death. The galaxy had created something it had never seen before, a unified, furious human race with a single purpose. And that purpose was to teach the universe that hunting humans for entertainment was the worst mistake any species could make. Colonel Baywujin hadn't slept properly in 2 weeks, but his mind was sharper than it had ever been. A special operations planning division had been transformed into something that looked more like a hunting lodge than a military facility. The walls were covered with detailed anatomical charts of 17 different alien species, behavioral analysis reports, and tactical assessments that read like a predator's guide to perfect kills. His team of 40 specialists worked in rotating shifts, each one focused on a different aspect of the alien species that had turned human death into entertainment. These weren't just soldiers, they were behavioral psychologists, biologists, engineers, and weapons specialists who had been given unlimited resources and a single mission: learn everything about the enemy. Colonel, we've got the Kethfer analysis. Complete, reported Lieutenant Imnara, looking up from her workstation. She had been studying hours of footage showing the reptilian aliens in their natural habitat. Their eyes are adapted for their home world's bright twin suns. In low-light conditions, they're practically blind. She pulled up thermal imaging comparisons on her screen. Watch this footage from their homeworld. They move confidently during the day, but at night they stick to well-lit areas. Their pupils can't dilate enough to compensate for darkness. Baywujin studied the data with the intensity of a hunter learning about dangerous prey. Tactical applications. Night raids would be devastatingly effective. They'll be stumbling around while our people move like ghosts. Also, their armor has no night vision enhancement. They never needed it before. Across the room, Dr. Choi Minwoo was analyzing the Zultheri, the insect-like species that seemed to coordinate the arena. Security. These creatures communicate almost entirely through pheromones, he explained to a group of chemical warfare specialists. They release different scents to indicate danger, food sources, mating signals, and combat orders, demonstrated with a captured sample they had analyzed from debris found near one of the missing colonies. Disrupt their pheromone production, and they lose the ability to coordinate. It would be like cutting phone lines during a battle. Chemical team was already working on aerosol compounds that could block pheromone receptors. We can make them deaf to each other's chemical signals, explained the lead chemist. They'll panic when they can't smell orders from their commanders. In the weapons testing facility, Master Sergeant Oh Jinwoo was having the time of his life. For the first time in his military career, he had been given permission to design weapons specifically to kill certain species. Didn't bother him, not after seeing the footage of human children being hunted for sport. The sonic disruptors are perfect for the Veltari, he explained to a group of engineers, holding up a device that looked like a modified grenade. Their hearing is so sensitive they can detect heartbeats from 50 meters away. That's how they hunt on their home world. He activated a test version of the device in a soundproof chamber. The frequency it produced was inaudible to humans. But the Veltari test subject, a captured arena guard, immediately collapsed, clutching its elongated ears in obvious agony. 1 pulse and they're incapacitated for at least 10 minutes. 2 pulses, and they suffer permanent hearing damage. 3 pulses, ... double quotes. He shrugged. Well, let's just say they won't be hunting anyone ever again. The engineering section was equally busy. Lim Seojin, the lead designer for the new stealth ships, was briefing a group of pilots on the revolutionary technology they had developed in just 3 months. These vessels use adaptive camouflage that mimics the background radiation of space, he explained, gesturing to the sleek, dark ships in the hangar. But the real innovation is in how we've analyzed their detection systems. He pulled up schematics showing the alien sensor arrays. Most species in the galaxy detect ships by looking for engine signatures, metal compositions, or life signs. We've designed our ships to emit false readings that register as space debris or natural phenomena. The test results were impressive. The new ships could slip past detection grids that had been designed to catch human vessels. We'll be ghosts until we're ready to strike, Seojin continued. By the time they realize we're there, it'll be too late. But the most chilling aspect of the preparation was how thoroughly human the approach had become. Unlike the aliens who had captured colonists randomly, humanity was studying each species like a scientist studies a specimen. They learned about family structures, social hierarchies, fears, and weaknesses. The Madaki are deeply religious, reported cultural analyst Park Ye-jin. They believe their dead must be buried in consecrated ground, or their souls are lost forever. If we prevent proper burial of their casualties, we create psychological trauma that spreads through their entire force. Colonel Bei Wujin reviewed the comprehensive battle plans that had emerged from weeks of analysis. Each alien species would face tactics designed specifically to exploit their particular weaknesses. The Kethvar would be attacked in darkness. The Zelthari would be chemically blinded, and the Veltari would be deafened by sonic weapons. We're not just going to war, he told his team during their final briefing. We're going hunting. And we've learned everything we need to know about our prey. The preparation was complete. Humanity had done what it did best. They had studied, adapted, prepared to hunt more efficiently than any predator the galaxy had ever seen. The luxury liner Cosmic Delight drifted through the Andromeda trade route like a floating palace. Its crystal domes sparkled with artificial starlight, and its observation decks offered panoramic views of the galaxy's most beautiful nebulae. Inside, the galaxy's wealthiest beings enjoyed the finest entertainment credits could buy, including front row seats to watch humans die. Captain Ru, Taeyun, and his team of 12 specialists had spent 2 weeks studying the ship's routine. They knew when the executives ate, when they slept, and when they gathered in the premium viewing lounge to watch the latest episodes of Death World Champions. Tonight was subscription renewal night, when the consortium's board of directors would meet to discuss expanding their human hunting operations. The teleportation was flawless. One moment the executives were alone in their luxury suites, the next moment human soldiers were standing in their rooms like ghosts made flesh. The new stealth technology worked perfectly. No alarms, no detection, no warning that death had come calling. Sergeant Han Myra had been assigned the most important target. Through her scope, she watched Velkoth, the entertainer, the consortium's head of programming, as he reviewed footage of the next day's scheduled matches. The alien was a massive creature with 4 arms and skin that shifted colors based on his mood. Right now, he was a pleased purple as he watched a human woman being chased through a maze filled with deadly traps. Target acquired, she whispered, into her cum unit. He's watching episode 943, the one with the family from New Geneva Colony. Han Mira had lost her own brother when the colony ship Bright Future had gone missing 3 years ago. She had just found him in the consortium's archives, listed as entertaining victim number 2847. The scope's crosshairs centered on Velkoth's primary head as he laughed at her brother's final moments. The plasma bolt was silent and instant. One moment the alien was enjoying human suffering, the next moment he was gone. No body, no evidence, just an empty chair and a half-finished drink. Across the ship, similar scenes played out in executive suites and private viewing rooms. The consortium's leadership had gathered to celebrate record profits from their human hunting shows. Instead, they found themselves facing Earth's most skilled soldiers, each one motivated by personal loss and burning with cold fury. The attacks were surgical in their precision. Captain Ru Taeyeon had insisted on zero collateral damage. They were hunting specific targets, not waging war on civilians. Each team member had been assigned particular executives based on their involvement in the human death shows, but the most important operation was happening in the ship's broadcasting center. Specialist Jang Do-yeon had infiltrated the main transmission hub, not to destroy it, but to take control of it. He was a communications expert who had spent months studying the consortium's broadcasting networks, learning their codes, their protocols, their security systems. "I'm in," he reported, as his fingers flew across the alien control interface. "Their security is designed to keep people out, not to stop someone who's already inside."
Nice.
The irony wasn't lost on him. The aliens had built their entire entertainment empire on the assumption that humans were primitive creatures to be hunted for sport. They had never considered that those same humans might be capable of sophisticated cyber warfare. Jang Do-yeon began uploading prepared files into the broadcast network. Instead of destroying the system, he was preparing to turn it against its creators. Soon the galaxy would receive very different entertainment footage of human strike teams in action, hunting the hunters with deadly efficiency. The first week's results exceeded all expectations. 12 high-ranking consortium members had simply vanished from secure locations across multiple star systems. No bodies were found, no witnesses came forward, and no evidence remained except empty rooms and terrified staff. The remaining alien executives began to understand that something had changed. The humans weren't sending fleets or declaring war through official channels. They were hunting individual targets with a precision that spoke of careful planning and intimate knowledge of their prey. Security was increased around consortium facilities, but it didn't help. The human strike teams moved like predators, appearing and disappearing without warning. They seemed to know exactly where their targets would be, when they would be vulnerable. The galactic entertainment industry began to panic. Species that had grown wealthy from human suffering suddenly found themselves looking over their shoulders, wondering if they were next on the list. The comfortable distance they had maintained while watching humans die was gone. Now the humans were coming for them personally. Within the first month, the consortium's entire leadership structure had been systematically eliminated.
Aliens
Finally understood that the humans weren't just fighting back. They were hunting with the patience and skill of apex predators who had studied their prey for months. The galaxy's most popular entertainment program had become something very different. Now the aliens were the ones being hunted. They were learning what it felt like to be prey. The first hijacked broadcast went live at exactly 1547 Galactic Standard Time on a Tuesday. Across hundreds of worlds, millions of aliens settled in to watch the latest episode of Death World Champions, expecting to see humans being hunted for their entertainment. Instead, they saw something that would haunt their nightmares for years to come. The screen showed a luxurious alien boardroom where consortium executives had been celebrating record profits from human death shows. But the camera wasn't focused on the executives. It was focused on the empty chairs where they had been sitting moments before. Dark stains on expensive furniture were the only evidence that anyone had been there at all. "Commander?" Kwon Ji-hoon's voice cut through the silence, calm and measured in a way that made it even more terrifying. "Good evening, Galaxy. For 5 years, you've been watching humans die for your entertainment. Tonight, that changes." The footage switched to thermal imaging of human strike teams moving through alien facilities with deadly precision. The camera followed a team of 4 soldiers as they methodically eliminated security guards who had been laughing at human prisoners just hours before. There was no sound except for Kwon Ji-hoon's narration and the soft footsteps of hunters who would become the apex predators of the galaxy. "This is what happens when you make sport of human death," Kwon Ji-hoon continued.
Oh.
"We're not your entertainment. We're your extinction." In living rooms across the galaxy, alien families watched in horror as their own species were hunted with the same cold efficiency they had once admired when humans were the prey. The roles had reversed completely, but the humans weren't interested in creating entertainment. They were delivering a message. Technical Sergeant Moon Hannah had been working around the clock in the Psychological Warfare Division, studying the captured broadcasts to understand what terrified each alien species. Her team had spent months analyzing the reactions of different species to various stimuli, building a comprehensive database of galactic fears. The Kethfer are afraid of drowning, she explained to her team as they prepared the next broadcast. Their homeworld is a desert planet. They've never evolved the ability to swim. Even the sound of rushing water sends them into panic. The customized broadcasts began hitting each species with precisely targeted psychological warfare. The Kethfer received footage of human teams emerging from water-filled tunnels, their scales glistening with moisture that represented their deepest nightmare. The audio was carefully designed to include the sound of rushing water that made their primitive brains scream danger. For the Zul'Thuri, the insect-like species that had coordinated much of the arena security, the broadcasts featured complete silence. Their entire society was based on chemical communication, and the absence of pheromone signals in the footage created a sense of isolation that drove them to madness. "We're not just showing them violence," Moon Hannah explained to her psychological warfare team. "We're showing them their own helplessness. Every species that participated in hunting humans is now seeing what it feels like to be prey." The effect was immediate and devastating. Galactic viewership of the entertainment networks plummeted as former spectators realized they were now the hunted ones. Species that had grown wealthy from human suffering suddenly found themselves afraid to leave their homes. On the Veltari homeworld, the sonic-sensitive aliens who had served as arena guards began reporting phantom sounds, the whisper of human footsteps, the click of weapons being loaded, the soft breathing of predators moving in the dark. Their enhanced hearing, once an advantage, became a source of constant terror. The broadcast showed footage of Veltari security forces being eliminated by sonic weapons, their sensitive ears bleeding as they collapsed in agony. The sound was filtered specifically to affect Veltari hearing while remaining silent to most other species, creating the impression that humans could kill them with sounds that others couldn't even detect. Notice how efficiently they work. Quan Ji-hoon's voice continued over footage of human teams systematically clearing alien facilities. No wasted motion, no unnecessary violence. They studied your weaknesses for months, learned your fears, understood your psychology. This is what happens when you make predators angry. The aliens began to understand that the humans had been studying them just as carefully as they had once studied human behavior for entertainment value. But where the aliens had looked for ways to maximize suffering, the humans had looked for ways to maximize efficiency. Restaurant districts that had once celebrated human hunting shows with themed meals and betting pools became ghost towns. Alien families who had gathered weekly to watch humans die now kept their children inside, afraid that human strike teams might target them next. The most chilling aspect of the broadcasts was how calm the humans appeared, like the panicked, terrified humans who had been forced to fight in the arenas. These human soldiers moved with the confidence of apex predators who had found their prey. "You made entertainment out of our death," Quan Ji-hoon concluded, as the broadcast showed more empty boardrooms and abandoned facilities. "Now, you get to experience what it feels like to be hunted by something smarter, faster, and more dangerous than you ever imagined." The galaxy's entertainment industry had created something they never expected, a unified human response that turned their own broadcasting networks against them. The tables had turned completely, and the former spectators were learning that being prey was far less entertaining than they had believed. Fleet. Admiral Park Hyun-soo stood before the largest gathering of galactic ambassadors in recorded history. Representatives from over 300 species had come to Earth, not for diplomacy or trade negotiations, but because they were terrified. The human military had been systematically dismantling the entertainment consortium for 6 months, and entire alien governments were beginning to realize they might be next. The conference hall was silent as Park Hyun-soo approached the podium. He was a veteran of 3 colonial wars, a man who had spent his career trying to keep peace between species. But the footage of human colonists being hunted for sport had changed him into something harder, something that scared even his own staff. "Honored delegates," he began, his voice carrying across the hall with the authority of someone who commanded the most powerful military force in the galaxy. "You've come here because you're afraid? You should be." The alien ambassadors shifted uncomfortably in their seats, Many of them represented species that had never directly participated in the human hunting shows, but it allowed them to be broadcast on their worlds, had taxed the profits, had looked the other way while there. Citizens cheered for human death. For 5 years, you watched our people die for entertainment. You placed bets on how long our children would survive. You made profits from our suffering. Park Hyance's voice remained calm, but there was something in it that made the temperature in the room seem to drop. Today, I'm here to announce humanity's new doctrine. He activated the main display, showing a map of the galaxy with red zones marking every system where human hunting shows had been broadcast. Any species that profits from human death will face extinction. We are apex predators, and you have made yourselves prey. The declaration sent shockwaves through the assembled delegates. This wasn't a threat or a negotiation, it was a statement. A fact delivered with the confidence of a predator that had already proven its superiority, while the Admiral spoke to diplomats. Captain Li Minjae was leading the assault on the consortium's main fortress in the Centauri Nebula. The facility was a massive structure built into an asteroid, protected by energy shields and defended by elite forces from 17 different species. It had been designed to be impregnable, a symbol of the consortium's power and reach. But the aliens had made one critical mistake. They had designed their defenses to stop fleets and armies, not small teams of humans who had studied their every weakness for months. Li Minjae's team of 20 specialists moved through the facility like shadows given form. They used the ventilation systems that had been built too large for most alien species, exploited blind spots and security cameras that had been positioned for alien eyesight, and moved during shift changes when guards were distracted. Guards. Eliminated in Section 7, whispered Sergeant Park Young-ho through the comm system. They never saw us coming. The facility's security forces were among the galaxy's best, but they had been trained to fight conventional battles against known enemies. They had never faced humans who moved like ghosts, who seemed to appear and disappear at will, who struck without warning and left no survivors to report what had happened. This is wrong, one of the Kethver commanders hissed to his second-in-command, as they found another room full of dead guards. They're supposed to be prey animals. They're supposed to run and hide and die for our entertainment. But the humans weren't behaving like prey. They were hunting with the patience and skill of apex predators who had studied their targets for months. Every move was calculated, every strike was precise, and every death served the larger purpose of eliminating the species that had made entertainment from human suffering. Communications. Officer Kim Gi-yeon was monitoring surrender offers from V. Across the galaxy, the Veltari had been the first to break their sonic-sensitive ears. Unable to cope with the psychological warfare that had been specifically designed to exploit their weaknesses, the Veltari surrender, she reported to the command center. They're offering full reparations, complete cooperation, and they want to turn over all their consortium assets to human control. Similar offers were flooding in from other species. The Zul 3 were offering to dismantle their entire entertainment industry. The Modaki were pledging to hunt down and execute any of their people who had participated in human death shows. The Kethver were offering to become vassals of the human government. But Admiral Park Hyansu's response was cold and final. Humanity is not interested in surrender. We tried diplomacy for centuries, and you responded by hunting our people for sport. You had your chance for mercy. The galaxy began to understand that this wasn't a war in the traditional sense. Wars ended with treaties, with negotiations, with compromise. This was something different. This was an extermination. A campaign conducted by predators who had learned that showing mercy to these species was seen as weakness. The human military had studied the psychology of every species that had participated in the human hunting shows. They knew that many of these civilizations respected only strength, that they interpreted mercy as an invitation to future aggression. We tried being civilized, Park Hyonsu explained to his staff. We tried being peaceful. They responded by making our deaths into entertainment. Now they get to learn what happens when you make predators angry. The hunt continued with methodical precision. Human strike teams eliminated consortium facilities across the galaxy, not for conquest or territory, but to send a message that would echo through galactic history. The species that had made entertainment from human death were learning that they had awakened something they couldn't control or negotiate with. The galaxy watched in horror, as humans proved they weren't just angry, were perfectly evolved killers when motivated by justice. The collapse began on a Thursday morning, when the Kethver High Council announced they were withdrawing from the Entertainment Consortium. Their homeworld's capital city had been paralyzed by fear for 2 weeks. After human strike teams had eliminated their entire entertainment board in a single night, the desert-dwelling reptilians, who had grown wealthy from betting on human deaths, suddenly found themselves unable to sleep without checking every shadow for human assassins. General SEOG, who watched the intelligence reports flood in from his command center aboard the battleship Vengeance. Species after species was abandoning the alliance that had made billions from human suffering. The Zelthari had shut down their broadcasting networks entirely. The Madaki were offering to hunt down their own people who had participated in the shows. The Veltari had retreated to their sonic-proof bunkers and refused to come out. "Sir, we're receiving surrender offers from 47 different species," reported his aide, Lieutenant Colonel Kim Youngman. "They're all trying to distance themselves from the consortium." But General Seojihu had seen the footage of human children being hunted through mazes while alien crowds cheered. He had watched his own nephew, who had been on the colony ship New Dawn, being torn apart by trained predators. For entertainment, there would be no mercy for species that had made profit from human death. "Tell them all the same thing," he ordered. "Humanity is not accepting surrenders. We're accepting the return of our people and the complete elimination of everyone who participated in their suffering." The final assault on the consortium's headquarters was scheduled for dawn on the planet Zarian Prime. The facility was built into a mountain, protected by the most advanced defense systems in the galaxy. It housed the central command structure that had coordinated human hunting across hundreds of worlds for 5 years. Colonel Yoon Sun-woo coordinated the ground assault while monitoring communications from the desperate alien governments. "The Kethver delegation is requesting immediate ceasefire," he reported over the CUM system. "They're offering to return all human captives and pay reparations equal to their entire planetary GDP. The offer was tempting. Dozens of human prisoners were still being held in facilities across Kethver space. But General Seogo had learned something important about these species during months of psychological warfare. They only respected strength, and they interpreted mercy as weakness. "Tell them they can return our people," he replied, "but the leadership that ordered their capture will still face justice." Inside the mountain fortress, panic had taken hold of the consortium's remaining leadership. The being known as Supreme Entertainer Vexel had been the architect of the human hunting shows, the creature who had transformed systematic murder into the galaxy's most popular entertainment. Now, he cowered in his reinforced bunker, surrounded by the last of his loyal guards. "How could we have known?" He babbled to his advisors, his tentacles writhing with fear. "They were just prey animals. They were supposed to be entertainment." But the humans had proven to be something very different. They had shown intelligence, planning, and a capacity for systematic revenge that had never been seen in the galaxy before. They weren't just angry. They were methodically eliminating every trace of the industry that had profited from human death. Vexel activated the emergency broadcast system, hoping to reach the human forces and negotiate some kind of truce. His image appeared on screens across the galaxy, a desperate alien leader trying to save his own life. "We didn't know humans were sentient enough too," he began. But the transmission cut abruptly. Sergeant Major Bang Haiwan's team had breached the bunker during his broadcast. The explosion that followed could be seen from orbit, marking the end of the galaxy's greatest entertainment empire. The creature that had ordered the deaths of thousands of humans for profit was gone, along with the facility that had coordinated their suffering. The rescue operations began immediately. Human teams spread across the galaxy, following intelligence gathered during months of hunting consortium members. In hidden facilities and secret prisons, they found the survivors, humans who had been kept alive for future shows, who had watched their friends and family die in the arenas while waiting for their own turn. Dr. Lee Soo-jin, led the medical team that treated the rescued colonists. Many of them were physically broken, scarred by months or years of captivity. But what struck her most was the psychological trauma these people had been kept alive, specifically to maximize their fear and suffering for alien entertainment. "They studied us," whispered one survivor, a woman who had been captured from the colony ship Bright Hope. "They learned what scared us most, what made us fight hardest. They turned our will to survive into their entertainment." The galaxy watched, in stunned silence as the human rescue operations concluded. In less than 3 months, humanity had dismantled an entertainment empire that had operated for decades. They had hunted down its leadership, destroyed its facilities, and rescued their people with surgical precision. But the real message was clear to every species in the galaxy. The humans hadn't just won, they had proven that they were apex predators, who could systematically eliminate any threat to their people. The galaxy had learned a terrible lesson about underestimating humanity, and that lesson would be remembered for generations. President Yoon Surel stood in what had once been the Entertainment Consortium's main control room, surrounded by the twisted metal and shattered displays that had broadcast human death across the galaxy. The mountain facility that had coordinated the systematic hunting of human colonists was now quiet. Its screens dark, its alien operators gone forever. Representatives from over 400 species had gathered for this moment. It's not because they wanted to be here, but because they were terrified of what would happen if they didn't attend. The human military had proven that distance and defenses meant nothing when humanity decided to hunt something. Every alien leader in the galaxy now understood that ignoring human demands was a death sentence. "These facilities will become memorials to the humans who died here," President Yoon Sira announced, her voice echoing through the chamber that had once housed the creatures who turned human suffering into profit. Every screen that showed human death, every betting terminal that wagered on human survival, every control room that coordinated human hunting, all of it will be preserved as a reminder. She gestured to the walls where holographic displays now showed the faces of every human who had died in the arenas. Thousands of colonists, men and women and children who had been captured and killed for alien entertainment, stared down at the assembled delegates with accusation in their eyes. "New protocols will ensure this never happens again," the president continued. "Any species that participates in, profits from, or allows the systematic hunting of humans will face complete extinction. Not conquest, not occupation, extinction." Alien delegates shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't diplomacy. It was a predator establishing territory and marking boundaries that no one would dare cross. Admiral Lee Jun, recently promoted after his role in discovering the alien broadcasts, oversaw the final transmissions from the captured consortium networks. But instead of showing humans dying for entertainment, these broadcasts showed something very different. Human colonists returning home. The rescue ships arrived at Earth in a steady stream, each one carrying survivors who had been kept alive. In alien facilities, waiting for their turn to die in the arenas. The galaxy watched in silence as families reunited, as people who had been given up for dead walked off transport ships into the arms of loved ones who had mourned them for years. "Look at them," Admiral Lee Jun said into the broadcast microphone, his voice carrying across hundreds of worlds. "These are the people you turned into entertainment. These are the families you destroyed for profit. Remember their faces, because humanity will never forget what you did to them." The mercy that humanity showed to their own people was absolute. The rescued colonists received the best medical care, the finest counseling, and all the time they needed to recover from their ordeal, but that mercy was reserved exclusively for humans. The former entertainment executives who had survived the human assault faced a very different fate. In facilities across the galaxy, the creatures who had ordered human deaths for profit were confined to cells where they were forced to watch continuous footage of their victims. Every human who had died in the arenas, every family that had been torn apart for entertainment, every moment of suffering they had created, all of it played on screens that never turned off. They wanted to make entertainment from human death, explained the warden of the facility holding the former consortium leadership. Now they get to watch that entertainment for the rest of their lives. No breaks, no sleep, no escape. Just the faces of the humans they killed forever. Director Nam Ki-wan established the human protection protocols from his new office in the former consortium headquarters. The protocols were simple and absolute. Any species that harmed humans for entertainment would face the same fate as the consortium: complete elimination of their leadership, destruction of their facilities, and systematic hunting of everyone who had participated. "We're not interested in being the galaxy's police force," he explained to his staff. "We're only interested in protecting our own people, but the protection is absolute. Touch a human for entertainment, and your species dies." The protocols were distributed to every government in the galaxy. It's written in every known language and broadcast on every communication network. The message was clear. Humanity had established new rules, and those rules would be enforced by the most efficient predators the galaxy had ever seen. The transformation was immediate and complete. Species that had grown wealthy from human suffering suddenly found themselves afraid to even look at humans directly. Entertainment programs featuring any form of violence were canceled across hundreds of worlds. The entire concept of making profit from death became taboo in galactic society. But the most important change was in how the galaxy viewed humanity itself. The species that had been seen as primitive prey animals had revealed themselves to be apex predators who could systematically eliminate any threat to their people. They had proven that they were not entertainment. They were the most dangerous force in known space when protecting their own. The galaxy learned that humans were patient, intelligent, and absolutely ruthless when motivated by justice. They had turned the hunters into the hunted and established themselves as the one species that no one would ever dare to hunt again. The entertainment consortium was gone, but its legacy lived on in the fear and respect that humanity had earned through systematic, efficient revenge. The galaxy would never again mistake human mercy for weakness, or human civilization for vulnerability. Humanity had taught the galaxy a lesson that would be remembered for millennia. Predators should choose their prey more carefully.